I could have done it! For you! For all of us!
With the way it is.
Come on! Jesus! Just grow some fucking balls!
I know what kind of God I need to be. For you. For all of us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Nerddom. My name is Matt, and today we are going to be talking about Loki Season 2. Now, I know Endgame was a huge point in all of our nerd lives with, everything being tied up very tightly. But there was one little storyline that they did leave a little tendril out, and it was the Loki from the 2012 Avengers movie using the Tesseract to get out of New York, and he lands here, and he is now a variant. So spoilers as we go into this story. If you haven't seen season 1 or 2 of Loki, feel free to turn this video off until you have, and I thank you for clicking on it. But mostly we're going to be discussing season 2. With season 2, things are starting to wind up, and I can definitely tell that this story, I know it's gone through a couple of different writers, possibly a couple of different directors, but it looks like Loki season 1 was really part 1 of a entire story that they wanted to tell. And I don't know if this was the original intent behind it at all. It may not have been. But now with season 2, it seems like this season 1 to season 2 is a full and complete story. And with this, there's lots of themes of the Ouroboros, which is not only a character in the show, but also the snake eating its own tail, circles in time, repetitions in time, a lot of repetitions, and a lot of time travel-y stuff. Timey-wimey, one would say. And I never was a big fan of what they did to Loki in season 1, where they made him watch a video and then he became that person in that video. Like, that doesn't really how things kind of work. So I didn't like that. But when they started season 2, we started seeing a little bit of a darker side again to Loki. This dude is the god of mischief. He is a dick. He tried to blow up, mess up New York City, become the king with his throne of Asgard, later. He tried to become the king of Earth, take over Earth and all this stuff and everything else that he wanted. And so when we get to season 2, it's good to see him use a little bit of mischief, use his magic in different ways, be kind of an anti-hero. He is torturing a dude with Mobius's help to give him the information, And we see that cube actually decimate a group of people later on, and they become goo. And I don't know why they hired the lady from Game of Thrones who had the 12-year-old on her to do that tiny little part. I thought she was going to be more substantial than what she turned out to be. I mean, that happens a lot in these shows, to be honest. But that part of him kind of does bleed away again to the newer Loki that we have here, and it's more of a emotional Loki. In this series, it's kind of interesting to say that a lot happened, and at the same time, not a lot happened because of that Ouroboros effect. We do meet another variant of Kang, of the one who remains, he who remains, I guess, my bad. And his name is Victor Timely.
Is everything. It moves through each.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
One of us?
And I thought all this was actually kind of interesting and cool to see. Chicago, Devil in the White City, time frame, this inventor, and thinking that he's a variant because he got the TVA manual of Kang. So is this the origin of Kang, or was he born in the 30th century? Is he that kind of Kang, or is this just a Kang that was born earlier times, or was Kang always born earlier? I don't understand this part, and it doesn't really explain it. If you're going off the comics, Kang, they kind of redid his origin story to be Reed Richards' kid. I haven't read any of the books or know much about that, hence the name Nerddom. But I'm not sure if this is his new origin story, or like He Who Remains says that he knows all this was going to happen. He knew all this was going to happen. And he basically gives Loki two ways out. It's to kill Sylvie, which he doesn't want to because he's in love with her, which is in love with himself, which is, I guess a good thing, but at the same time a bad thing. Like, you love yourself that much. Or he can leave he who remains in charge of the multiverse and with the sacred timeline. So he has those two choices, and he basically said that the end of Loki season 1 he knew was going to happen, and he had countermeasures, and that's why he said see you soon at the end of season 1. And so you see Loki try a bunch of different things in the last episode. And the last episode is probably the most interesting part of the series to me. You see him going through time and time again, trying things. And He Who Remains says that, I don't know if it's him or someone says it's going to take centuries. Oh, that's what it was. He needs to learn about the mechanics of the space-time continuum and all this other stuff. So then he says, well, how long will it take to learn? And he says centuries. So then it just cuts to black and it says centuries later. But you still see him trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. And finally, Loki is the one to step out into that dangerous place that the other people have been wearing suits the whole time. And he basically starts taking the tendrils of time and then weaving it himself. And then it becomes, I believe it's Yggdrasil, the world tree. So maybe he made it into a shape that he understands as Yggdrasil, as, this kind of thing, as the legends of his Asgardian tales. But now we actually have the world tree. So talking about, sacred timelines, time frames and all this other stuff, did he make the world tree now? And that's the story that Thor is talking about? Because now Loki's kind of the god of time. I know people online are saying the god of stories. I don't know, nerd dumb again. I don't know. So let me know if there's any comics that I can pick up to learn more about the god of stories. But he starts taking those tendrils in time and weaving them into the Yggdrasil, the world tree. And you kind of see the different universes off the top of it. So now he's kind of like an omniscient god happening on every timeline. So Loki is fairly important to the future of the multiverse storytelling. And that part was pretty cool visually. The show visually overall is a step in an interesting and good direction versus just endless use of the, what's that thing called? Stagecraft. That's what it's called. So, a bunch of Marvel projects, especially on the TV, have been very limited by using their ILM stagecraft technology. I think all of Ant-Man was filmed on that stagecraft technology as well, and you can totally tell. Luckily with this Loki show, you see a mixture of the stagecraft as well as practical sets and a style that just bleeds through, with the TVA being this like retro 70s style, and the way that they dress, it's all kind of wacky. The suit is wacky too, that Mobius, Victor Timely get into. So the design aesthetic is really cool, and it's something different that doesn't exist really in Marvel. The cosmic Marvel, the planetary Marvel, none of it really exists like it does in the TVA. So the design aesthetic is really cool, the look is really cool, but does it seem like just a lot of wasted time just to get Loki to this point? And I'm trying to think if there's a better way of getting him to that point, or is this really the journey that we needed to be brought on with Loki to become the god that he always supposedly needed to be, for all of us. So it did seem like a lot of dragging feet. I will say that it's probably the best thing, in my opinion, that Marvel solely has produced since Endgame, not including the Sony Spider-Man movies, even if it has Doctor Strange. It's probably the best pure Marvel project that they've had since Endgame. And there's going to be lots of things to complain about. I mean, Victor Timely being someone, again, who is kind of, even He Who Remains makes fun of him. He makes fun of the way he speaks, and he knows what he's going to do. So it seems like, it should have been maybe just one story. I don't know. What I'm going to do is probably watch Loki season 1, episode 1, all the way through to season 2, episode 6, and see if it makes more sense that way. Because it has been 2 years since the Loki show has been on, and, been a lot of time. Has it really been 2 years? Has it been 2 years? Oh my God. I don't even remember. Everything's so crazy nowadays. Acting, I do like the acting. I think Tom Hiddleston, he plays Loki in a different way than I would expect the god of mischief, this really evil dude, to be. But I mean, it's a choice, I guess. And they're trying to bring him to a certain point as being the god of stories. Again, it wouldn't be my choice to make Loki this way, but they're going for a more emotional Loki who has friends. And you can say that they're not really friends. These people were like torturing you, and your enemies in season 1, but now they're your friends because of, you know, what's happened. And maybe that's true because of Loki's warped mindset on friends. He's never really had close friends, so these people are now maybe what he believes to be his friends, even though there's not much relationship wise, friend wise, except for Mobius. And Owen Wilson, I think he does a cool job. He lots of key lime pie, and I will say that key lime pie is very neon looking, but it does look delicious the way they're eating it and the fork hitting the plate. And I just want some pie now. Let's have some pie. But I think he plays Mobius really well. Seeing him as the jet ski salesman, and I don't know if his wife left him or if she's passed, but he's left with 2 kids and he's a jet ski salesman. But that was really cool to see, and I think he plays him really well, and he's a welcome character into the MCU. The other characters are kind of how can I forget? Short Round. Short Round's introduced this season, and anything he says I want to listen to. He can talk forever with just, you know, explanation of everything, exposition of everything, and I want to listen to it. So, I mean, he's always a fun addition, and again, he fits. He fits really well. Am I going to talk about him? I don't know if I want to talk about him. But I think I have to talk about him. The fuck is his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Jonathan Majors, there it is. So let's talk about Jonathan Majors. A lot of people were complaining that Victor Timely was really annoying and stupid choice. I think that was done on purpose because at a certain point at the last episode, you do talk to He Who Remains again. And He Who Remains kind of changed between season 1 and season 2 as well. He was kind of playing the dumb, goofy idiot kind of. He's super smart, but he's at the same time like, I don't know where this goes kind of thing. But in season 2, the He Who Remains flips a switch to being more sinister. And I liked that. It seemed more threatening. It seemed more sinister, an actual bigger threat to Loki and the MCU as we know it. Or he can just leave things as they are. So it does make me think like the way that He Who Remains was acting in the first season is that, again, a play, because he does change a little bit in the last episode of season 2. So, you know, Jonathan Majors, he's doing what he's doing. He trained as a clown, so that's all good. Again, I have no problem with it. Just Victor Timely is ripped. Victor Timely's ripped in those clothes. You can tell they put the cable around his bicep, and I'm like, okay, Victor. Okay. Renslayer and Miss Minutes, I think, were just like really wasted. It seems like they were going to do something, but in the end, Renslayer is just in the void realm and she gets eaten by that monster dude, purple monster thing. And Miss Minutes is kind of like reset. Her AI is reset, but she has this weird fascination with Victor Timely and He Who Remains about like this romance between her and him. That really gets thrown away after a couple episodes, after we meet Victor Timely. And then I'm more interested in the Ouroboros part with the machine and the loom rather than all that stuff. But it just seems like we have these 2 characters that did some things and we need to write them out of the story. We need to get rid of them because there's really nothing we can bring. But Renslayer was Kang's, or He Who Remains' you know, lieutenant who basically made the TVA for him and then wiped her memory with Miss Minutes. So Miss Minutes has always wanted to be with him. Yeah. Again, I really do wish that Loki was, and this is just my mind storytelling, I wish Loki in the TVA was more of like a Doctor Who, you know, just like maybe a long through line story, but they could have been exploring different things just like Doctor Who could have. I always thought that was a cool idea. What else can we talk about? We talked about all the acting, we talked about the look, production value, the story. We talked about the story and how I guess he always meant to become the god of stories. You know what I mean? And that was really the whole point of this show. I don't know what I've been saying the last 20 minutes, so I would say if you're a Marvel fan, you can watch Loki. I give it a thumb up. That's fine. And I want to see where it goes, man. You know, after watching The Marvels, feel free to watch that review as well. After watching The Marvels, I want to see things starting to pay off. You know, all of Phase 4 has been a build up to nothing. There's been nothing tying it all together. So to have no direction, it's really made me like kind of apathetic about the whole thing. Loki was probably the thing that I actually was nodding along with. I'm like, okay, let's do something, you know, let's do something. And again, the Marvels, spoilers for the Marvels, it looks like the multiverse part was kind of just added to the very end, probably in reshoots. So it's really an afterthought, but it's almost like the last half of Act 3, which is a fairly large portion. Is Marvel burning behind the scenes, I just think it's just chaos. They don't know what they're doing. They're hiring the wrong people still. But with Loki and that team, it looks like they're starting to clean up a little bit. I do want to applaud them for having a fairly well-made show, which is high regard for phase 4 and 5. Very high regard. It looks like they really were passionate about what they were doing, and it looks like they had a good time making it, which is something that you can't say with a lot of Marvel projects recently. So anyways, Loki, thumb up. Probably the most Marvel-y thing I've felt in a very long time. I cannot wait to see what they come up with next. Yes, I can. I'm gonna wait. I'm fine. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. Also, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot here. And if you didn't like what you saw, thanks for hanging out so long, and hopefully we'll see you in another one. Until next time, take care.